lot of online dating, and similarly went online, found a bunch of different sperm banks, picked the kind of bank I'd heard good things about, and put in, things that are important to me. For me, it was mostly more important that I pick an open donor, which means that when Jada turns 18, she has the option of contacting him.
Same, Natalia?
Same, and that really reduces your number
fewer
of
options.
Because not all men want to become that daddy with that child in 18 years.
Or 25 other children.
This is true. We're going to talk about that in a second. Natalia?
I think also it's a fairly new option for donors. So they can choose now. I don't think that option existed for them to become available to any offspring. And that's also why it's a small number, because it's just started, and I believe the number of choices are increasing.
So the man is really putting himself out there to be introduced to basically rent. I don't want to be, and I'm not being crude at all, but the potential of renting a hotel room, putting out a smorgasbord and saying, ladies, bring your children in, and opening the doors and having 20 or 25 children and moms walk in.
Sure.
And it's a at least. So now we have questions of, we all want in our social lives and our private lives, we want exclusivity. I have so many questions for all of you. The questions are the item of exclusivity, where you are using sperm that you might use again, and that other women, you might have half siblings floating around.
We do.
We do. You do. Oh, you do. You already know that. Okay. Then the question of, and the big question, what do you tell your child? And what do you tell your child to tell in response to people saying, who's your dad? Where's your dad? What does your dad do? How come your dad isn't there on Christmas? How come he doesn't come to Father's Day? So, Jane, let's start with you as the founder of Single Mothers by Choice. Do you guide your ladies in talk to me. What do you tell them?
We try to tell them to understand the child's level of development and what the child is capable of grasping, and also what the child is really asking, because the answer changes over time, depending on the child's level of understanding, of course. So there's no one right answer. It's more a matter of really trying to get to what the child needs to know at what point.
Now, I would assume that going to school opens up the Pandora's box of questions from people who may or may not know, who weren't in the immediate neighborhood of the play school area. Where a kid goes to school, you might be exposed to 20 or 25 total strangers in a classroom, and then these socialization questions come up. Where is your father? Or the teacher absentmindedly or just by rote says mother's name, father's name. What do we tell our children at that point?
I don't know. You might ask the ladies there.
Jamie, Natalia, your children are very young. You haven't faced this yet. Is this on your mind?
Oh, they are young. Okay.
Very, very young. 18 months? Jada's 18?
No, they're both around the same age. They're both
like
27 months.
Okay. Right, sorry.
Well, it does start sort of. There's daddies in books, and they're interested. My son has turned a daddy and a mommy into two mommies.
Oh,
and I'm not a two-mommy family. I'm a single mom. But one of the dubious advantages of doing it now, is that there are so many families that are so different that the daycare we're in, I said to them, I'm a single mom by choice.
Right.
There's no father involved. There's no child support. So I wanted them to be sensitive to that. And they just sort of said, oh, God, there's so many families in here. Don't worry about it. We just talk about all kinds of families.
Wow.
So they were very relaxed about it. I don't know what your experience
Jamie,
has been.
what did you
No, I've
find?
kind of taken it from what Jane's written about as well, and kind of always presented it to Jada that, we're a mom and kid family, or we have grandma and grandpa. And the other day I even said to her, she said something about a mommy and a daddy, and I said, oh, we don't have a daddy. Who's our family? And she started naming, Poppy and Mama and, Mommy, and she was perfectly content at this moment, But I also have a daughter who also calls practically every man a daddy, like when people walk in and out of stores, like, oh, there's a daddy, there's a daddy. So I don't know how much of the concept she really understands right now.
So it's just an awareness of a term attached to a male figure, and they don't know. Jane, how big is your organization?
Well, over the 28 years, we've had 12,000 people come through. So it's pretty big. At some point, we've been around 2,000, 2,500, because people come in, think about it, make a decision, stick around for a while, and ultimately move on when they no longer need the support network.
Now, do you hear from people that their mind, they're on the fence, basically thinking about it, and they meet you and Jada's back, the star is back, and you hear people say, I really can't decide, and they meet somebody, for example, like Jamie or Natalia, and they find people in their community who are willing to talk to them. And I don't even know if that's the way,
Yeah.
it works. And then they say, you know what, that's it. I know there's a support network out there. I know that it's okay. I'm not going to burn in hell, and nothing terrible is going to happen. You know, whatever religion you're in, we're still talking the traditional, eroding, divorce-ridden nuclear family that ain't so nuclear anymore. So have you been responsible for a lot of single women having children?
Oh yes, I think that's very true. The support is phenomenal, both online and in person at local meetings, such as where these women, I think, know each other from. And the decision is made with an educated foundation.
Now, let's talk about the process. We're not going to go through the details, but we have several options. You buy the sperm. What happens then? We're not talking a romantic dinner and a bottle of wine. We're not talking lingerie. Well, maybe we are talking lingerie between you and me. We're talking about a clinical doctor's office.
Blue hospital gown.
Clinical setting. Do you want to talk a little bit about the process? We don't need to go into too many details, but let's set the scene. The sperm are delivered. They're sterile. They're tested. You go through a health inventory, I assume. Are you healthy, ready? And then there are counting processes, and there were readiness processes, and there were temperatures taken and shots
very clinical,
given. Very clinical. And so you're on this project, basically.
Yeah.
You have a calendar. You live and breathe your calendar. Talk to me, Natalia.
Oh, I don't know what you called it when you started out. I called it Operation Turkey Baster.
Okay. I know why we can't hear you. Your mic is all the way down.
Is that too far?
It's probably too far. I'm going to clip this up higher.
Thanks.
Go ahead, sweetheart.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
And that was artificial insemination.
Okay.
And it seems like so long ago that
Worked
I
the
don't.
first time?
No, I did 5 tries, and then said it's time for a break. This is just not working. And
What
I
was
took
your
a break.
emotional state during that 5 months of waiting and?
Yeah, it's very hard because you do the insemination. You have to wait 2 weeks, and
Did you do your own pregnancy tests at home?
no.
Good
No, because
girl.
what was the point of spending even more money when you just had to go
We'll
to the
get to
doctor's
the money
office
in a second.
anyway?
Could be accurate.
So
Yeah.
1 was a no, 2 was a no. Same sperm donor all the way through?
No, the first one became unavailable. And there weren't open donors that I knew of at that time. So when I took a year break and came back, I was working as a teacher, had a much better insurance. I had been doing it out of pocket.
How old were you at the time?
I want to say 39. I had him when I was 41.
Okay.
So around 38, 39, I started.
So a year goes by.
And so I went for IVF.
In vitro fertilization.
Yes, with a wonderful doctor here on Long Island. And on the second try, I got my son.
And that's where the sperm and the egg are mixed
Outside of
in
the
the
body.
lab, outside of the
They
body in a sterile
stirred around.
environment, and then they're inserted.
Yes,
And it
after
took 2 of
several
those.
days. And it took 2 of those, and they mark your development, and it takes a lot of work. You have to go in for blood tests every morning, sonograms. You have to have a real flexible schedule or be able to meet the
This is
the
a
doctors.
commitment.
Oh yeah, and if you're not producing enough eggs or quality eggs, you do a lot of injecting of yourself with God knows what. You know, I used to think I was sort of an organic tree-hugging person, and then I realized I needed these drugs to have a child, and I sort of gave that up for a while.
At some point, did you just stop and look in the mirror and say, my God, is it worth it? Did you ever say that? Or were you still on that train?
I always felt like, well, why
Once you
hasn't
started,
it?
yeah.
Why hasn't it happened yet? Because it's meant to happen. It will happen.
Okay.
So there are moments that are dark during the process. I don't know how long it took you. You have moments, but all in all, I really believed that I was meant to have a child, and I was going to do what I needed to do. And I am far from an extreme case. Friends of mine have really, really, really committed themselves to a lot of work for it.
Wow.
It's
I promised I won't cry during the show, but maybe at the end. We are going to bring your little boy out at the end. Jamie, what was your process, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, no problem. I actually did 2 inseminations, and I was using jugs at the time. And